Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia. We've been running for 5 odd years, speaking to some of the world's greatest guitar players. Thanks so much for joining me for episode number 174. Now today I am joined by Miranda Deutsch. Now Miranda is a great exponent of the Gypsy Jazz guitar style. She's based in Brisbane, Australia, but has spent time in Europe and has shared the stage with some of the greatest exponents of Gypsy Jazz. Not only is Miranda a wonderful guitar player and teacher, she's a real community builder, and I know you're going to really enjoy today's interview. Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Miranda Deutsch, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Now, a little bit of background. The last time we spoke to a Gypsy Jazz guitarist would have been Cameron Jones back in 2019. And I know you guys have crossed paths sometimes, but it's great to have another person immersed in the style on the show. Let's go back with you. I understand you got into the style relatively early in your guitar playing career. What was your gateway into Gypsy Jazz?
Basically, I was studying jazz at the Conservatorium in Brisbane, and I just wasn't playing music with anyone. There was a ensemble at uni, but I just felt a bit disheartened with the whole thing, and I deferred, and kind of just had a bit of a mini crisis. What am I doing? And then just wandered up the road to my local cafe one night for the Sunday music night and got chatting to one of the guitarists there, and he invited me to a Gypsy Jazz jam because he knew that I knew the jazz chords. I could play jazz, and that's essentially what Gypsy Jazz is. It's jazz, just played on stringed instruments. I went along. I was super nervous, but it was just such an awesome vibe. We just drank coffee, hung out, play guitar all afternoon, and because I had that experience with knowing how to read charts, I kind of fell into it and just fell in love with it straight away. It fulfilled this desire for a music community as well.
There seems like there's a really cool vibe in obviously in Europe, but in Australia there's a really cool scene which I know you're intrinsically part of here as well.
Yeah, for sure. Brisbane, obviously, that's where I'm hanging out all the time. So I do find it really, really, really active, super warm, super welcoming. Pre all of this crazy world stuff at the moment, we could just rock up at a gig and, probably know about 15, 20 people, musicians and non-musicians that had come to the gig and, no prior arrangement. Hey, let's meet at this gig. They're just there. So it's a very small scene, I think, compared to other genres. It's kind of, a sub-genre and not super popular, but surprisingly, because it's so enriching and so much fun and pretty grassroots. But once people have a little taste of it, it just feels good. It just fulfills not just the music side of things, but the community, the social stuff as well.
Yeah, cool. I love that. There's there are, again, outside of the pandemic, there's a bunch of jams and things that happen in Sydney as well. Again, I guess Cameron's got his foot in that camp down here, and of course the Jazzmanu Festival is always a fantastic thing too, which I think is in your hometown these days as well.
Yeah, that's always been in Brisbane, and we're coming up to the 16th year. Last year was a little weird, absolute, crazy restrictions on numbers, but yeah, I've probably played most years. I
Hmm.
think the first year I played Gypsy Jazz was the first year that the Osmanouche Festival was on, so I really kind of fell into it around the same time the vibe just kind of started building, I guess. Still, tiny, tiny amounts of people, but really, really enthusiastic. It's this, I find it a really geeky style of guitar, which just, because it's not easy.
Mm.
It's not easy. It's a journey, and even the rhythm guitar. Like I would call myself a rhythm guitar specialist as opposed to a lead guitar specialist, even though I will play lead at gigs and solo and everything.
Yeah.
But just yeah, the Osmanouche, I guess, provided that first foot into the wider community of Australia because you've got people flying in from all states and just the absolute dedicated of the dedicated. And so when you do go to these other states, these other cities, you can call people up, hang out, have a jam, go to a gig. It really is that small that
Mhm.
we just stick together.
Can you give us some historical context of this Sinti tradition?
Yeah, so way back when, I won't even attempt to say how far back, but the gypsies travelled, or Roma travelled, and just basically were forced to stay nomadic. It could have been also a part of who they are, part of their essence as well. I'm not sure, but they travelled, through a lot of the world and really divided up into two groups, which are the Sinti and then the Roma. So the umbrella term, I believe, from my understanding, is Roma, but the Sinti are the communities that settled in places like France, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and Belgium is where Django was born,
Okay.
and he ended up in Paris. So the finger thing that was a caravan fire. So his wife was making these plastic plastic flower bouquets. The caravan caught on fire, and a lot of one of the left side of his body was burned. And I believe that David Reinhardt, Django's grandson, told us when I was in a workshop with him a couple of years ago in France. He said that he actually lived with a lot of pain that he didn't really share or complain about. It was just constant. Um, and all so there was that hand deformation, and yeah, he managed to recover and become this crazy amazing guitarist that we're still all obsessed with. So many guitarists from
Mm.
so many genres will still cite him as an influence and inspiration because his virtuosity, but also just overcoming that accident. Yeah, so he popularized. I mean, this guitar style, I guess, was popularized in the 1930s because Django fell in love with jazz. He heard the American jazz and he was playing guitar, so he just naturally played it on guitar. And then he got together with a bunch of other musicians who played stringed instruments. They rehearsed, they rehearsed, they rehearsed, and then just bam, just put it out into the world, and everyone went nuts for it. And people still go nuts for it today. I think it's just something about those stringed instruments. It's really special and unique sound, when we're talking about jazz. And it's just got that acoustic sound, which when you hear it live or you're at a jam and there is no amplifier, again, those vibrations just, I don't know what they do to me, but it's super special and I'm addicted to it.
At the same time, I mean, in America, we've got this huge swing explosion. But I guess, as you've noted, that the Sinti music is more around the strings, more around the guitars and the violin, whereas the big band explosion in the States is more about these big bands, big brass bands, kicking it out. So it's an interesting contrast in in the virtuosity that was coming out in these very different scenes, very different parts of jazz.
Yeah, that's why it was, I guess it really stood out. And Django traveled to the US and played with a lot of the amazing bands and band leaders. They knew,
Oh
they
wow!
knew he could cut it with them. Yeah, there's lots of awesome photos of him hanging out with, yeah, just all the top jazz cats of the time.
Uh huh. That's very cool. Yeah, can you explain the difference in guitars? So you play you'll play an acoustic guitar in this style, but it's not set up the same way as like a flat top dreadnought will be set up, for example, and the bridge is radically
You're
different. What are the main differences in the instrument itself?
Yeah, you're probably talking talking to the wrong person to talk about the specs, the tech specs of the guitars, but I'll do my best. So, yeah, we've got what's called a floating bridge, and I'm not sure what material it's made of, but it looks like brass. And it basically the idea is that we're trying to get your arm off the body, your hand off the body. We don't want flesh touching the body. We don't want, excess wood or anything touching the body, because these instruments were designed to be played when there wasn't much amplification around. It was all about, getting maximum acoustic sound. So, yeah, we've got that floating bridge. The string composition is different. For me, the sound of it is the biggest thing I can probably talk about because of the technique of how they get played. So again, we're trying to maximize volume. So the attack of your right hand is super important. We're playing a little bit closer to the bridge, I think, to intensify the harmonics. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure how to explain that, but it's yeah, the I don't know, I can't honestly, and it's maybe some people will be offended, but when I play a dreadnought, I'm just like, no. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain, and I know I'm talking to a podcast with probably dreadnought lovers, but yeah, you just got to jump on it, and you'll just jump on one day if you can, and you really will, I think, be wowed by the different sound.
Yeah, yeah, I mean the tonal idea is yeah, totally different. So I was lucky enough to attend a workshop this week which you hosted sort of on fundamentals or some basics on the style, and it was so fun. And that whole idea of projecting, like you explained that so well. And the right hand, again, for all of us right hand players, it was such an eye opener that the right hand technique was very different to all the rock and other styles I've played. Whereas your hand and your forearm are pretty much got a constant angle, whereas in the rhythm style you were teaching, and I know we're on a podcast, I'm showing my hand to you on the Zoom meeting. Obviously, no one at home can see this, but there's quite an angle with that, with the forearm and the right hand, and that helps with, am I right in saying, the projection of the instrument, but also keeping your arm off the body so the instrument's resonating as much as possible.
Yeah, so that helps with, I guess, getting closer to the bridge, which gives it the tone a little bit more of that traditional style.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely gets the hand off the body and the arm off. And yeah, it basically we've got to go pretty fast especially with the rhythm guitar. I mean, sorry, the lead guitar as well, of course. There's super shredders in this style. Oh my God, and they're incredible. But the way I was describing it in the workshop with the just as a rhythm guitarist, yeah, there was this one particular gig, where I had to learn. An international player, Andreas Oberg, was coming to town, and I probably should have looked at him. I just didn't know much about him, so I left it to the last minute to kind of just get an idea of what he was like as a player, and I was just absolutely terrified when I watched him on YouTube and was just playing songs at 100 BPM faster than I'd ever played these songs before. So that was the moment where I really, really was grateful that I had studied the style properly to get that right hand set up with that angle, because you end up twisting, I guess, rotating the wrist. So if I'll do my best to explain it. So if you put your arm up in the air with your fist like pointing towards the sky, and then you drop your wrist to the left if you're a righty, and you've got, it's going to be somewhere in between a 90 and a 180 degree angle, and you maintain that posture, and then you position that so your pick is going to be striking behind the bridge. And when you strum, or when you're doing your lead guitar with that, moving from the elbow, like strumming with a straight wrist, and it's just all about the elbow. I couldn't go up to the speeds that we do. I could go up to them, but I wouldn't have the stamina to play a 3-hour gig. It's just this angle kind of, you release all tension, and it's just a lot of momentum. If you, another way you can get the posture, I guess, is pretending you've got a lit match and you want to kind of flick it out with your wrist, or maybe you're shaking water off your hand. But, remove all tension and just let it move back and forth with momentum. And you can do all that.
This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say, as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Koch. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. The last time I saw some live Gypsy Jazz, I saw Lola Meyer when he was in Sydney last year on his way to Brisbane for the festival, and he was phenomenal. And Cameron was on rhythm guitar, and my hat was off to Cameron for playing those rhythm parts all night, which is what you're predominantly doing in your gigs too, Miranda. You guys look like the hardest working guys in showbiz.
I do get that a lot after gigs. People will come up to me and say, well, you just like kept that whole thing together, because essentially you are a big part of the rhythm section. Often there isn't a double bass, and it's just you as a rhythm guitarist, maybe a lead guitarist, and then a violin player. So you're essentially providing the harmony and the percussion. So the style is really quite percussive. But yeah, Lolo Meyer is we just love him. Like, bring him over. He's come over to Australia a couple of times to play at the Osmanoosh Festival. I did played with him, I think, one of those times, the first time, but many moons ago when I was living in Europe, I actually went to the Netherlands and spent a week, just stayed in a caravan at his gypsy camp, and learnt with him every day, twice a day, had sessions. So that was, I guess, the true experience, the traditional experience of learning that music that I got to experience, just sitting with someone face to face. Do this, no, not like that, yes, like that, good. Do this, no, yep, got it, okay. So it was just that face to face, and that's what it's like in those gypsy communities where this music is traditionally passed down from father to son, or uncle to nephew, or often it is very male dominated. Like it's not super common for the females to be playing the guitar, and yeah, it's I guess I've travelled to Europe a few times outside of living in Paris, and I always make the effort to, well, it's no effort, it's just like a passion. I'm just like, I have to go and get lessons. I have to go and do these geeky Gypsy Jazz guitar camps. It's that we're so far away, and that's just the best place to learn this music, is in Europe, on the ground, with the gypsy, and not always gypsy, but just those top level players from France and Netherlands especially.
Yeah, cool. So it's very much an oral tradition where, I guess, as you said, it's passed down. It's face to face, sharing the information.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's not all day that they're, able to access their father or their uncle, but it is a lot of listening to the records and transcribing as well. But they're, just the camps are, with Lolo has, I think it's 12 brothers and yeah, there's 12
Wow.
children. So the majority of his brothers and sisters live on the same at the same camp with him. So there's I don't know like 90 people. His family just right there. He doesn't. His family isn't one of the more musical families in over in the Netherlands. Probably the families with the most players would be the Rosenbergs. That's in the Netherlands.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, that's just one of the families. I just got to visit the Rosenberg camp when I was over there because I got a very epic lesson with Nusha Rosenberg, who's I would say the rhythm king of the world,
Okay. Okay.
and
Wow.
he's of the Rosenberg trio, which are one of the best gypsy jazz bands in the world, and yeah, extremely inspiring.
Really cool. Hey, tell me about your trip. As you said, you've been over there a few times, but you actually moved there for a length of time to Europe to immerse yourself in the style. When did this happen?
I think that was 2013. So I have a Hungarian passport. My dad's Hungarian,
Oh, okay.
and I just thought, if not now, when? When am I going to move over there? And I always loved Paris when I'd been a few times before, and I had a really good friend there. And yeah, just I guess I didn't move there for the music. I didn't really think about it in that respect, even though I had
Okay.
been playing the music and probably done, 500 gigs on Gypsy
Oh,
Jazz
wow.
by then.
Wow.
It didn't tweak. I guess it was more about France actually. I've just and living in Paris, spending time there. So, but when I got there, of course, I'm like the next night, um, Marino the next night. It was just incredible, and Chevolo Schmidt, and all these guys that in these local bars, and just hang out with them, and I got to play with most of them really. Eventually, they realised I could play pretty well and invited me up. So yeah, it was a super special time, and I just yeah, I really took it for granted for sure. Now that I'm in Australia,
Sure.
I'm like, damn, I should have got some footage of me playing with Angelo de Bar, Um, yeah, it was good times.
So you mentioned it's a very male-oriented scene in that, the passing it down to the sons or the nephews. But it sounds like you were pretty warmly welcomed as well. Is in terms of women being involved in the style, has that changed, do you think, in recent years or recent times?
Oh, 100%. There are some phenomenal gypsy jazz guitarists, female gypsy jazz guitarists around, but still, like I would just say a couple of handfuls, which is, there
Sure.
would be a million handfuls of the guys, but they are around and they're really good, really incredible. But yeah, at the time, for the first probably 10 years that I was, because I've been playing this music for about 15, coming up to 16 years,
Hmm.
yeah, people would be like, oh, wow, you're the first female gypsy jazz guitarist I've ever seen, or, so yeah, that was happening a lot, but not so much nowadays, which is awesome. But
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
it's still super rare, I would say, in comparison.
Yeah. Hey, you've got a course coming up. I know you do a lot of teaching one-on-one, but you're putting on a small group course. And as I mentioned earlier in the interview, I got to attend. I guess maybe it was a taster sort of a session for your rhythm guitar and repertoire workshop. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? What that's going to look like?
Yeah, so that's going to be 4 weeks, just focused on La Pompe, which is the term we use for the main swing rhythm of gypsy jazz. So swing is the predominant style that we play under that gypsy jazz umbrella, but we also play other styles like gypsy bossa, bolero, waltzes, um, yeah, a couple of other ones in there, but less, I guess, um, less common. But this one is all about La Pompe because I guess that was the style that when I got to Paris, I really got schooled in. I'd done, hundreds of gigs and everyone was like, oh, you have such a good rhythm guitar, just, loving me. And then I got there and they're like, yeah, but so it was,
Wow.
yeah, I actually kind of had to unlearn a little bit and then just, yeah, recalibrate everything and really go back to basics. And yeah, and now I feel, extremely confident to play with anyone in the world, really, like all the top players, because I know that I've learnt with, the French players. I've learnt with the Dutch players. The Parisians, which I find even have a different style. So everyone has a slightly different style, but I find I can modify and adapt quite easily now. It looks kind of easy actually. A lot of people will say, "Wow, it looks like hard work," but in terms of what you're doing, just 4 downstrokes per bar, it doesn't look crazy. Difficult, but there's a lot going on. A lot of subtle nuances in the left hand need to be developed. I'm obviously teaching this, so I know how long it takes. It's not you don't get it straight away, and because you can't hear the difference straight away, or you're just not used to, just needing that much control, I guess. And then the right hand. Again, you need to be super accurate in both hands because we want this consistency of sound, volume, tone, because you've just got to sound like a super tight rhythm section, providing harmony and percussion. So it's a journey to get it super tight. So this course will be focused on setting people up with those foundations so they know what they need to be doing, and it will take longer than 4 weeks to get it all tight, but we'll also be working on, the chords that are common in Gypsy Jazz. So I'll give all of those out. So we'll be working on some standards, Gypsy Jazz standards that use that La Pompe feel. Also talk, a bit of cultural info. It's just good for people to have a bit of an idea of the what it's like, I guess. A little bit about the origins, but also just what it's like at jam sessions, even
Sure.
just like that cultural info, because that's got a culture in itself, the jam session. So, yeah, I guess it's a lot of Q&A as well. I'll be doing video revisions for everybody I'll be kind of giving my feedback on these videos, but to everyone in the group, because everyone's going to encounter the same issues. So it's really going to be valuable for them to hear me say these things many, many, many times. Sometimes I joke with my students, it's about 7 touch points of marketing. Often I will say the same thing over and over again, but because there's a lot going on, it takes time. So yeah, it'll be about, learning the chords that you need, teaching people how to read the chord charts, how to simplify chords. That's a big one. With jazz, you can get super, super complex chords, but you don't always need to be playing them to sound good and sound legit in this style.
Cool. Sounds great. Sounds cool. As I
Yeah, it's
mentioned,
been a lot of fun.
the session I sat in on was so fun, and it's just, you look at the rhythm on the chart and you go, "Yep, I got this," and then you jumped into it and all the nuance. It's full on, and I've been playing for a long time because it was a whole new world. It was challenging, but that was fun. Do you know what? I haven't dropped a pick that many times since I was like 13. So trying to get that
Yeah,
big sound.
yeah.
So
Did you try my trick of, rubbing your finger and thumb on your nose to get, a bit of the natural oils on the pick, so
I
it's a
did
little bit.
towards the end. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to do that. And then I had sideways.
Yeah.
I already played a thick pick. Picks are funny. Like I play like a 2 mil pick or something every day. That's a bit of a lightweight for you guys.
It can be. It
Yeah.
can be. Oh, yeah. Probably my favorite is a 2.5.
Okay.
But some people go, yeah. two. I'd say most people play with two minimum.
Okay.
I do have picks that go up to 7 mil. I think I showed you on the intro to
Crazy.
Gypsy Jazz workshop. It looks like a bar of soap, and I wouldn't recommend purchasing it. Yeah, but look, most people I know don't play anything thicker than maybe
Okay.
3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Cool. Hey, tell us about the Jazzmanu Journal, which you launched this year.
Yeah, so that's a little publication which celebrates the music, the musicians, and the culture of Gypsy Jazz. So we've got interviews, album reviews. It's just supposed to be really inspiring and also, yeah, an insight into that culture. So I'm just working on the second one now. So I really do want to be always interviewing a Sinti musician just to kind of keep connected to the culture and those origins and just give people an insight into another beautiful culture out there. And probably my most favorite part of the journal last time for the first issue was the Q&A I did with musicians. So
Okay.
I've got the journal here, so I'll just read the question that I asked them. So we asked 5 musicians to give an example of how they approach building speed in their playing. And when I got those responses back, I was just like, I don't know, I'm like, damn, this is so good. I love this. I'm loving that I'm extracting this gold out of these musicians. And I don't know if they've, beyond their, of course they would tell their one-on-one students, but everyone's got good stuff, but then they've got gold as well. And I feel like I really, really got some amazing stuff. And I'm a teacher, but there were a couple of things that I was like, wow, yeah, that's an excellent way of explaining it. And I'd never thought of it like that, So, if anyone's keen to subscribe to the Jazzmanu Journal, they can get in touch with me, and I can send them issue number 1. And then, of course, when issue number 2 comes out, which will be in the near future, they can get in touch. Just send me a DM on Instagram, or email me at miranda.deutsch@gmail.com and say, hey, I want a copy. I'll send it on through.
Excellent. That sounds really, really good. Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the best way for people to get in touch? So you mentioned your Insta and your email. And for the course coming up, are they the best places for people to find out about it? And I know you start on the 16th of August. Once this interview is published, it's only a couple of days, but if people hear this and want to jump on, what's the best way?
Yeah, just send an email to miranda.deutsch@gmail.com, and I'll sort you out. So it will be starting this Monday, the 16th. It's 7 to 8:15 p.m. Every Monday for 4 weeks. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time. So even if you're a little late, I can squeeze you in if you're super keen. It will be a small group, which will be awesome. So we'll get this music's really about community and connection and growing together, encouragement, all of that. So we'll be able to do that with a small group. I mean, it's just honestly a reflection of the style itself. It's just usually small groups, unless you go to the Django Reinhardt Festival in France, and then it's just, people everywhere, Mecca. Yes, but my Instagram is Miranda_Gypsy Jazz _guitar. But if you just search for Miranda Gypsy Jazz, you'll see me pop up for sure. You can send me a DM as well.
Cool, awesome. I'll leave those links in the show notes as well. If people want to find out there. Unreal. Well, Miranda, thank you so much. It's been really cool talking to you today. Yeah, I find the whole style fascinating and love the way you taught it the other night. And encourage people to check out your stuff through those links.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
All right, there you go. Miranda Deutsch on the show. Great to speak with her. Great guitar player and such an advocate for the style too and building up the community around it. I love that. Please check out Miranda's links in the show notes. My thanks also to Fretboard Biology for sponsoring today's episode. Again, the links are in the show notes for that online guitar course. All right, thanks so much for joining me. My name's Matt Wakeling. You've been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. And in the words of German rocker Michael Schenker,
keep rocking, keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking indeed. Catch you next time. Bye now.